have a concept
Yes.
I want you to try and address.
Sure.
It's going to be a multi-part question.
Okay.
One is, do you believe that we are in a battle of political philosophy? How dangerous, if you do believe that, what is the philosophy that we are endangered by? And how serious do you think the threat is? And how strongly will you try and battle that threat if you get elected as senator?
Well, I think we're endangered by the philosophy that says, I want as much as I can get from the federal government. And we've had politicians that have put constituencies together over the past several decades and have said, you want this from the federal government, and you want that from the federal government, and you want this from the federal government. And if I put enough constituencies together that reach 51%, I can be elected to Congress, or I can be elected to the White House. And that is what has worked. And we've got to get away from that. And we've got to return to a constitutional form of government. And that's what ultimately is going to get us there. So I believe there is a philosophy. And that philosophy has said, regardless of what the Constitution says, I want this particular program that benefits me. And if you don't have people, if you have people that, like we the people from the founding, if you have an electorate, a population, a citizenry that says, no, you're going to maintain adherence and fidelity to the Constitution, then that type of philosophy doesn't work. So that's what we're dealing with today.
I guess what I was looking for you to respond to would be that our president, with the support of Congress, has stood up and said, we're going to fundamentally transform our government. That philosophy is progressivism, which is based in communism. There's a lot of these people in here that were here probably, that may still be here, that were in the military, that went and tried to defeat that concept all over the world, and now our own government is maintaining it, is promoting it. Do you feel that way?
Yes, but the people elected. How many of you remember the coup d'etat that President Obama took part in? No, I don't either. What about the title of nobility that was placed on President Obama? No? No, he was elected. The majority of Hoosiers voted for him, and he received 11 electors in the Electoral College from the state of Indiana. The situation, folks, is that the American people have said they want these programs for decades. And we have spent money, and I mean, that is a philosophy, but would you call someone who passed into law Medicare Part D, prescription drugs, that? Is that what motivated them to do that? I mean, the simple fact is that seniors wanted a Medicare prescription drug plan that is never funded out of current revenues. And that's why that was passed into law. So as America wanted the federal government to improve education. So a president passed an expansion of the role of the federal government with No Child Left Behind. It's happened, unfortunately, in both parties over the years. Now, President Bush would never have voted to expand health care to include everyone. I'm not saying that. But this is the situation we find ourselves in. That the American people, various constituencies, want various benefits from the federal government. And we are $1.6 trillion in the red. That's the only reason we're here. Because people elected officials that said they were going to do something, and those elected officials did it. I mean, I remember hearing Barack Obama saying he wanted a single-payer health care system. I remember hearing him say he wanted to give amnesty to bring people out of the shadows. I remember the global warming discussion he had during his candidacy. This is what he said. He's doing exactly what he said he would do. And the American people elected him after he said that. And so that is what this election cycle is about. It is about what the American people want from their government. and what they don't want from their government, what they demand from their government.
We found out that we don't want what he wants.
Yeah, and it's a little late for that at this point, but maybe November 2010 we can change that
John,
back.
I will tell you from the responses you're giving me that I'm not sure you're strong enough to go to Washington and defeat the mentality that's there. I'd like you to respond to that. There's a lot of us that feel like that our country is in danger from a philosophical takeover, and that we need people to go to Washington to make a battle, be a warrior, and to stand there and be like Mike Pence, not John McCain. I think the Republican Party has...
Do you honestly believe, sir, do you honestly believe that the American people have not taken part in this by asking for program after program after program?
No, there are
For
some,
12 years
I'm
I was
saying
in
that.
Congress,
I'm saying
and I had
we're
people
asking-
come to my office asking for program after program. I was there. I've been there. I know what it's like. I know what it's like. I know what it's like whenever Hurricane Katrina hits the Gulf Coast, and the American people from that area want $51 billion that is never paid for. That is never paid for. And we say yes. The Congress says yes, except for a little less than, I think, a dozen of us in the House of Representatives. And I was the only member from the state of Indiana in either the House or the Senate that said no to that. New spending that is never paid for. I've been there. I know what it's about. I know what it's like when members of Congress stand on the floor and say this is the compassionate thing to do. Well, friends, you and I are not being compassionate with regard to Katrina, because you and I are not paying a cent of it. Not one penny is coming out of your pockets or out of the... And the legislators that voted for that spending are demanding that decades later, their grandchildren and great-grandchildren are indebted to the Chinese and other creditors for that. I can do that. I can do that. It's not standing, it is standing, and sometimes it's standing against your own party that feel that adding $51 billion of new spending that is never paid for is compassion. Define compassion for me whenever you don't spend a penny of your money but relegate your children and your grandchildren to a crushing weight of burden. That's not compassion to me, that's compulsion. You are compelling them to do that. And I was the only member from the state of Indiana to vote against that spending bill. So I know what it's like. I can do battle. And so the question is, I can do battle against members of my own party, against members of my own delegation, and that's what we have to do. We have to be able to stand up against everybody. And you're suggesting there's only one side that we've got to stand up with. I was there for 6 years when we were in charge of everything. And I had to stand up against everybody. And I did. And there were a lot of people that didn't on our side of the aisle. There were a lot of people that were talking about compassion. Once again, I don't consider it compassion when it doesn't cost you a thing, but it costs your great-grandchildren their economic destiny.